Missiles kept flying in the Middle East, so this after the news we had of Iranian oil production facilities being struck earlier in the week gives us something to talk about with Doug Flynn, co-founder of Flynn Zito Capital Management. So let's do that. Two other things as well, Doug, here, even though we have no stock market trading. Outlook for oil. You know, the president's given us 2 weeks here that he's going to make a decision, but there's still a lot of unknowns.
Yeah. Well, anytime there's geopolitical instability, that's going to raise oil prices, and that's exactly what's going on. Now you have destabilization going on because, you know, if they take out Iran's oil production, it's only about 2% of the world's production, but it still takes time. It's disruptive for it to kind of find another place and for other countries to ramp it up. So you've seen a 28% increase in oil prices since the low on May 22nd. A little bit in the last couple of days from this, but it's kind of been building with this anticipation, and it could continue if this escalates, and that's the problem. And then it's going to hit the gas pump, and Trump doesn't want that. That's going to directly impact people in their wallet, and you don't want to see that.
No, that's a good point. Two other things. One is TikTok, which we'll get to in a moment. But first, Microsoft. I mentioned before the last break that these layoffs at Microsoft, planning to lay off thousands of people, and the question was whether it's a Microsoft issue or there's a wider jobs issue. How would you put this in context?
So in tech, we've seen a lot of management get cut across all the companies. I haven't seen a lot in Microsoft is mentioning that they're going to cut some of their sales staff and some other departments, but that represents about 20% of their total, you know, 250,000 employees. But they're taking that money. They want to save money, and they want to redirect it to a much more costly venture, which is AI. They want to take that money. They feel, I guess if in the lower end of the sales department of Microsoft, you really have to be careful because you're probably going to be let go starting next month, and some of that money they're going to take and put that towards further going into AI, where they need the money to do it.
Spending on
very
AI,
expensive.
Not necessarily hiring related to AI, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Not hiring an AI per se, redirecting some people, streamlining, retrenching, and that is a little bit of a backdrop. But across many companies, you're starting to see that a little bit.
Okay, now TikTok. So the president put something up on social media earlier about TikTok, and the bottom line is there's another extension. Now, you know, we thought there'd be a deadline and this whole thing would get decided, but no. President Trump says, I've just signed an executive order extending the deadline for TikTok closing for 90 days. So the new deadline, September 17th of 2025. Where's this going?
Well, I mean, technically it's against the law because the federal government banned it, and so you keep getting these extensions, and at the end of the day, he doesn't want to alienate 170 million U.S. users of TikTok. That's,
especially the ones that like him.
Most definitely the ones that like him more than anything else, but obviously that's a big voting base, and you know, he's taking advantage of that. So we keep extending. Look, we almost had a deal here. It was about to go through very closely until he did the China tariffs, and that blew that up. So now he's trying to get the deal. I think he thinks in the next 90 days maybe he can get a deal with China and then get the TikTok deal, and then you go on from there.
Yeah, but but sometimes he just says it pretty simply. Hey, I like TikTok because people told me that it helped me out during the election. But from, you know, the point of view of business and everything else, it does seem like he's incentivized for whatever reason to get this deal done. And, you know, whether it's like we had Frank McCourt on, he's on the Dodgers. He went like somebody's going to buy this thing. That's the end game.
And that's what you want. You want the data in the U.S. China and the Communist Party still has a part of this, and they could say they're not going to do a whole bunch of stuff, but we know how much you can hold to their promises. So we don't trust them, and you need to get the data here in the U.S. And if you do, you got a deal. And if you don't, that's over. It's going to get shut down. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll find a place, and maybe it'll be in the next 90 days. And if not, maybe we'll get another extension. Who knows?
Who knows? Well, the president's got a lot going on, so he can push this one off till September, which he just did apparently. All right, Doug. Thank you, Doug Flynn there.